Oh, what's going on, everybody? The Arid Lord is back, and, well, this is, I guess, the final Game of Thrones video. I figured I'd finish this out. I was somewhat following the seasons, doing vlogs, and I had a lot more predictions and hype for the earlier episodes, that's for sure, until the Night King had his fate decided, and then Daenerys had her fate decided, and, the signatures for the petition to rewrite the season are at 1 million signatures. So I don't know what it's going to do. It's not going to do anything. Like all the episodes are out. The show is over. There's no. This isn't Sonic, where you can pester the artists and the executives and get them to make a last-minute squibble change. Stuff like that usually doesn't work. The Sonic instance, where, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, they had a trailer for the new Sonic movie. The character looked goofy as hell, really stupid, didn't look like the video game character. A whole bunch of people rioted, and the studio responded, released another trailer, and the character actually looked like the Sonic of the game. Now, I don't know how controversial that is. I mean, if some people did actually like the original Sonic, that also, opens the window of how much do people's opinion, the collective group, have over the say of a project, because that's what the situation is with Game of Thrones. So many people were disappointed, myself included, with Season 8, that they want their own Daenerys revolution, where they want to burn it all, burn them all, burn the script, rewrite the whole thing. And it's not going to happen, but I have to say, and compared to my crazy, over-the-top, I guess, reaction in the moment to episode 5, the penultimate episode, because I did make that video a few hours after, or actually an hour or so after watching episode 5, but I'm actually making this vlog a day after seeing episode 6. So there has been some time for me to sit and fester on this finale. And I even said to my friend after I was done watching it, I was like, I didn't mind this finale that much. I thought with the storyline that they were continuing, it was good. I would have liked a totally different storyline, which is what I'm going to be talking about, like how I would have wanted Game of Thrones to, how I envisioned this season going. When I was rewatching the series, the Night King burns the wall down, the Army of the Dead floods in, I had an idea of how this was going to go. Basically, I thought that... So episodes 1 and 2 were not a surprise to me. Those two episodes I would have kept those two episodes. I think that was fine. Jaime coming north saying that Cersei's not going to help. Daenerys and Sansa meeting each other, some angst between the two leaders, because Sansa wants the North independent, Daenerys just wants to be the queen of everybody. So I was fine with all that. Arya finally getting to hook up, and you had it was decent. It was decent. All right, I didn't have too many complaints about the first two episodes of season 8, but the main thing I would have changed about episode 3 during the battle is at some point I wanted the main heroes, everyone who was left from that attack, I wanted them to retreat. I wanted them to retreat south and abandon Winterfell. Like, the White Walkers take over Winterfell, and I thought that that's what they were building up to, because in the opening credits, where there are those ice tiles, they show the wall broken, and you see the ice tiles kind of creeping across the ground. They take over the last hearth, the home of the Umbers, where the Umber kid was like a zombie on the wall and they lit it on fire. I thought that those tiles would keep eating territory, almost like a Galactus kind of virus from the Marvel universe, just eating territory, and then eventually it would hit King's Landing, and then we would have a big standoff. Now, I thought that Theon would basically evacuate Bran. Like, Bran's too important. He's the three-eyed raven. He's got the memories of the world. Theon would evacuate Brandon Stark, and they would get away from the conflict. They would get away from the conflict. Maybe the Night King's trying to fly around, look for them. But you have a battle that more or less played out the way it did, other than Arya killing the Night King and the things that happened in the second half. I would have liked a fight scene between Jon and the Night King, considering how many times they had those stare downs. It seemed like it was foreshadowed a lot. But if you're going to have the Night King survive this episode, wait and hold off that fight for a few episodes. So then episode 3 ends with basically immense loss. Like, they all have to retreat. Like Daenerys and her 2 dragons, she still has the 2 dragons, the rest of her army, they all retreat south. And somebody maybe sacrifices themselves. Like someone stays inside Winterfell, draws all the White Walkers and all of the White Walker armies into Winterfell, and basically creates a giant distraction so that everyone can retreat. And then that person dies, and maybe that's how the episode ends. Episode 3 ends with that person, main protagonist. Maybe it's Theon, maybe a main protagonist. He's surrounded by all the White Walkers. It's inevitable that he's going to die, and then he dies, and then the next episode, then episode 4. So episode 4, you have the heroes in haste retreat, and eventually they're going to bump into Cersei. And that's eventually what I wanted to happen. I wanted the heroes to be, like, there's a choke point. You have the White Walkers army invading from the north coming south, and you have Cersei who's just waiting for them in King's Landing with the Golden Company, with Euron's fleet, with the rest of the Lannister army. She's waiting there, and she's like, this is what I was waiting for. I wanted that my plan from the season 7 finale was to let the White Walkers weaken my enemy, and now you come scurrying back south and you're ripe pickings. Then I would have liked a scene where Tyrion or somebody has to appeal to Cersei, like basically like tell her again another speech where like, look, like we're all going to die. Maybe Cersei sends out a foraging party, a small force after the White Walkers. Maybe she tries to scout. Maybe the Night King and his undead dragon fly over King's Landing, and maybe something convinces Cersei. She has to see the threat in giant numbers. Maybe there's that giant storm cloud, the winter storm cloud that was swallowing Winterfell in episode 3. Maybe something like that of invading them. Something that shows Cersei that, like, oh shit, like the White Walkers are a much bigger threat. I know I saw one face-to-face in the season 7 finale, but they're even more of a threat than I could have possibly imagined. So then she has to, like, begrudgingly accept an alliance between Daenerys and Jon and all their forces. So then everyone kind of holes up in King's Landing, or maybe outside the walls of King's Landing. Like maybe Cersei says, all right, you can camp on the lands outside King's Landing, and we'll basically, we'll send the Lannisters and the soldiers out there to fight the White Walkers, and everyone's fighting. So basically, you finally get the team up that we wanted from the season 7 finale, where it's Cersei and it's the living versus the dead. That's what I thought that this season was building towards. In season 7, the main enemy and the main theme of that season was that the White Walkers were the main enemy. That everyone all these seasons has been bickering and fighting for this stupid Iron Throne. Meanwhile, there's a bunch of ice dudes that have a ginormous army of people, and they're coming. They burst through the wall, and Jon was trying to convince everybody that they were the main threat last season. He sailed to Daenerys, someone he didn't know at the time, tried to convince her. He risked his life going north of the wall just to capture one of the undead, to bring it all the way back south and show Cersei as proof they lost one of Daenerys' dragons in the process. This whole thing unraveled because Jon was trying to convince the world from all of his time in the Night's Watch, all of the things he was there, he saw them, and he said that to people. He said that to Tyrion, to Daenerys. He's like, I fought them, you don't understand, you have to see it to believe it. And even Daenerys said that in season 7. You have to see it to know, now I know. They convinced you that the White Walkers, that was the big threat. The finale would be the one-on-one duel of Jon versus the Night King. that the shadow shot from Bran's vision where there's a dragon flying over King's Landing, it's not Daenerys burning the city. It would actually be the Night King's dragon, flying over, and, maybe he burns some people, and, maybe his dragon's the one that causes a whole bunch of death and destruction. Who knows? But I thought that was what we were building to. And then you get some interesting political stuff, because then Cersei's waiting for her moment. Because the undead look like they're winning, Cersei needs to kill both of her enemies at once. She needs the undead and her Jon and Daenerys, everyone. She needs to take everyone out. So maybe she sets up caches of wildfire, very similar to season 6 finale. She sets up the caches of wildfire, kind of as a trip mine or a claymore, so that she can try to kill some of her enemies while they're distracted fighting the White Walkers, and then that's where you get some of the internal conflict. So that, it would have been difficult to manage, true, but that's why you had 2 years to think of these ideas and implement them. So, I thought that was why, you had 6 episodes, it took you 2 years to make these 6 episodes, that a lot of packed in, that, yes. Between episode 3 and 5, where episode 3 was the massive battle of Winterfell, and episode 5 was the massive firebombing of King's Landing, I understand that there was a lot of production value put into this season. I get it. Looking back, I get it. But I think you would have been able to, because you could have still had your character moments. And you were still able to have your character moments in the first 2 episodes before the Night King even got to Winterfell. Because technically, after the wall fell, you're telling me 2 episodes go by before the Night King arrives on the doorstep of Winterfell? The Night King had a dragon. That thing, if we're believing how fast those things can fly in season 7 when Daenerys gets the Raven and then flies her dragons all the way north to save Jon north of the wall when they were capturing the White Soldier to bring south. The Night King, and this was another theory I had, I thought the Night King was going to fly all over the world. I thought he was going to put undead soldiers on top of the dragon and fly to Braavos, fly to Essos, fly to Dorne, King's Landing, and basically show because the world's been so ignorant. They've just been believing, oh, I support this lord, this queen, this king, blah, 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 blah. Oh my gosh, now they see the threat face to face. They see the threat face to face. What could be worse than seeing an undead dragon with holes in its wings and this ice guy with a crown flying around, shooting blue fire? That would have been cool. It would have been really. But they contained him just to the north. They contained all of that just to the Winterfell battle, which the Winterfell battle was amazing. I liked the dog fight, the 3-way dragon fight, the Night King versus Jon on his dragon, Daenerys on her dragon. That was cool. I'm glad they added that, but you could have done that in a different setting. You could have, because then you have all the characters together. And is it me, or did Cersei kind of get the shaft in this season? It felt like she really didn't have a lot of character time at all. Jon and Daenerys and all of the North stuff was the main focus, and because they kept building and building that whole conflict with the White Walkers, they didn't really focus on the Euron Cersei stuff. There was the conversation Cersei had with Captain Strickland, how worthless the Golden Company. I'd said this in the previous episode, but what, they didn't even fight. They just got eviscerated and just burnt to death by a dragon. They had this cool armor, they had these cool shields with skulls and crossbones, and if you had bought into my theory about how the season would end, or the series would end, then the Golden Company could have been used in the fight against the undead, or they would have been turncoat, turned against the Unsullied, or because initially everyone's banding together to fight the undead, but then Cersei's still waiting for her moment to manipulate the playing field. I think that would have been way more interesting. That's just me. I think it would have been more interesting, but now this is going back to how the episode finale actually ended. Given that Bran is the king, and I think a lot of people are angry, oh my god, Bran is the king, it's the worst decision ever. I'm going to actually be the Satan's advocate, devil's advocate here. I actually think Bran being the king is the best choice because it's not Bran. You guys need to remember that. Brandon Stark is dead. It's the three-eyed raven in Bran Stark's body. And obviously, he remembers all the things Bran Stark does. But it's basically a vault of memories. That's who they elected to be the king, who can see all different parts of the world and warg into animals. It's actually the best choice for the king because it's somebody who can't father children, so they're not going to be obsessed with carrying on their crazy bloodline like the Targaryens. It's somebody who is not physically imposing, like they're a cripple in a wheelchair. They can't run around, hunt like Robert Baratheon when he was just drinking wine and hunting and didn't really care about being the king. It's somebody who is moderate in tone, so they're not a psychopath like Joffrey who's cutting off people's heads and shooting whores with crossbows. You know, it's nothing like that. It's a wisdom, basically like God. They elected God to be the king, and it's not like if you think about it, Bran had to go all the way north to the wisdom tree, all of the magical powers in the north, like upload it. Like to a thumb drive. He put a thumb drive in his head, uploaded it to himself, became this new being, and that new being is now the king to restore order in a broken society. In a way, that makes a lot of sense. It really does. However, I'm going to say, that could still work in my theory, the one I said about the White Walker. Like, I still think the Night King should have been the main villain. One problem with this season was that they had way too many villains. There were 3 villains in one season. You had the Night King for 3, you had Cersei for 2, and then you had Daenerys for 1. And then the whole season seemed to be building up to, oh, Daenerys, you never thought she could be evil, but she really has fire and blood in her system. It's like, okay, not only was it a stretch that she would just torch innocent people, like she won. I already said this in the last video, but she won. The bell's rung. All she had to do, and if she's going to burn anything, go to the Red Keep, shoot a fireball at Cersei, done. You don't need to kill the people that are on the ground. The Lannisters had surrendered, it was over, okay? The same shit you did when you fought Jaime Lannister and Bronn in the field, remember? And all you did was kill Rickon and Randall Tarly. You didn't kill... Did you kill all of the soldiers that were there? No, they bent the knee and you spared them. But you didn't do that in the most recent episode. Why? Because I guess losing a dragon and losing a friend makes you go absolutely bonkers within the span of 5 seconds. But I'm going to put that aside for now. Just wanted to put that out there. I said that in the last vlog. But Bran being the king actually makes sense. And I liked some of his advisors got some good fates. Like Bronn has been looking to get compensated for his services for so long. He becomes basically the Tyrells. He controls Highgarden, for Christ's sakes. I mean, that's from being a guy who's not even a knight, a cutthroat assassin, to now being the leader of the Tyrells and Highgarden. That's pretty good. He made out pretty good. Sam has always wanted to be a maester, so now he's the head maester of the Citadel, King's Landing. Sir Davos helped Stannis build his navy, so that makes sense for him to be the master of ships. And then Brienne that was a great scene when Jaime knighted her, and it would make sense that she would take on a higher knighting duty. Now, I guess she swore an oath that she would defend Sansa forever, so why would she leave Winterfell to go protect Bran? But I guess Sansa probably said, look, I trust you with my life. I want you to defend my brother because I trust you. So, okay, fine. All right, that makes sense. And then Tyrion. I'm glad Tyrion lived because all the Lannisters would have been dead if he died. And Tyrion always was meant for great leadership. I was so proud when he became Hand of the Queen for Daenerys because he believed in Daenerys at the time. But now he's supporting a much better cause, and he's right back to being Hand of the King in the second, the second in command position, and that's always been his role. I mean, he took over as Hand of the King when Tywin was away, and he was serving the crazy King Joffrey. That's been Tyrion's arc. He's served a series of crazy people, from Joffrey to when Tywin took control. and then serving Daenerys, and now he's on to the all-knowing wisdom tree. So yeah, I didn't have a problem with that. And then Jon, I'll end this with Jon. He kind of became Mance Rayder. He became basically, because there's no point being in the, what the hell does the Night's Watch do? The White Walkers are dead, and the Free Folk are allies with the North. They're no longer just wildling beasts that need to be killed. So the two threats, the two reasons that the Night's Watch existed in the series, those two, that they're gone. Both of those are gone. So Jon doesn't even stay. He actually takes an expedition of wildlings with Ghost, which thank God they had a scene where Jon pet Ghost. If the show redeemed itself on anything, at least they put that scene in so that people didn't get that dumb head nod that he gave him in episode 4. So yeah, him and Tormund lead that. So basically, and the thing is, Jon always belonged in the North. He never wanted to be king. He never wanted to. He would not do well sitting on the Iron Throne in King's Landing. Jon is just not that kind of person. He's the perfect king. As Varys said, someone who doesn't want to be king maybe should be king. Like, he has good judgment. And he would be a fair ruler who has both Targaryen and Stark blood. He's really the perfect person to have the throne. But where does Jon, the person who's grown up not knowing his identity, where does he belong? The North. The North is where he belongs. And he spent a lot of time in seasons 2 and 3 in the North with Ygritte and the wildlings, really becoming a part of their culture to the point where he was sympathetic and died for them. He died for the wildlings. So it really makes sense that he would live amongst them. These are, like, there's no group of people in the whole series that love Jon more than the wildlings. Jon gave his life for these people. He took multiple knives in the heart for the wildlings. Like seriously, like all the wildlings, for Hardhome and everything he did, owe him a huge debt. So it makes sense that Jon would live amongst them. Like, I didn't mind that. And he avoids any of Daenerys' soldiers and any of those, Grey Worm and anyone who seeks vengeance for him killing Daenerys. Like, it's fine. So yeah, I talked about a lot of things. I tried to cover a lot of things in this mini overview. I don't even think it was mini. It was more an immense overview. Obviously, I would have liked for this season to be different. But, I'm going to end the vlog with this. There's one main thing that this show suffered from. And I've alluded and talked about this in a few different, probably the last vlog I made about episode 5. It was the pacing. The thing is, I would have believed the evil twist with Daenerys if it was done right. If it didn't come out of such left field that she would just be willing to burn women and children in the streets of King's Landing. I would have believed it if they had more time. It is absolutely beyond my comprehension why the show, like HBO came out and said that they would have given the showrunners more money to make more episodes if they wanted to, but they said, nah, 7 episodes in season 7 and 6 in season 8 are fine. Like, the majority of the problems that people started having with this show started in season 7. Because certain groups just started dying, like, oh my gosh, all right, the Tyrell plotline's done, the Dorne plotline done, Euron just, his ships can teleport all over the place. Like, it felt like the plot was at, like, hyperspeed. Like, the speed of the Millennium Falcon, it felt like it was like, oh my gosh. Like, the first 6 seasons, they felt like they were going at the right pace. And then all of a sudden, as soon as season 7 started, it was like imagine you're jogging a marathon and you're just jogging. All of a sudden you just start sprinting and you're like, why? Like, you're gonna run out of energy at the end, and you're gonna get to the end exhausted and tired and way worse than you were if you had just kept jogging at a normal pace. I don't understand why they didn't, 10 episodes in season 7 and 10 in season 8. I believe would have fixed a lot of these problems, because So many characters that were just left out, like Edmure Tully. Like, I'm glad they actually acknowledged his existence at the end of season 8. Like, that actor was probably like, oh, good, I get fucking 3 scenes over the course of 2 seasons? Like, what the hell? Like, he was locked in the dungeon of the Freys, and we don't even know who broke him out. It's assumed that it was Arya when she killed all the Freys, but why wasn't there a scene where we saw that? Again, if you had the extra time, you could dedicate that to showing those things. You could also show Daario. Did we forget about Daario? We haven't seen him since the season 6 finale, and we never will. Who is basically the ruler of Meereen. Daenerys is dead, so what? Is Tyrion gonna send him a raven? Like, yeah, here's all the shit that went down. You're the leader of Meereen. Grey Worm might come back and try to do some imperialistic shit with the Unsullied, but for the most part, you're in charge of Meereen. Have fun, and Daenerys is dead. Like, like Daario loved Daenerys. He had, you know, he hooked up with her a couple of times. I'm sure he would be pretty freaking devastated to learn of, you know, the fact that she burned innocents and the fact that, like, oh boy. Yeah, I just think that the show it had the opposite problem of The Walking Dead. I kept saying this to people on comment sections and stuff, that The Walking Dead season 7 and 8, and I have many vlogs for my channel that focuses on The Walking Dead talking about this. Season 7 and 8 dragged out the Negan plotline. It really dragged out the Negan plotline. People are like, all right, when is this arc going to be done? When is Negan going to be defeated? This is going on very, very long. I'm losing, like, my attention span. This is just you know, 16 episodes. Holy shit. Think about it. 16 episodes in season 8 of The Walking Dead compared to 6 in season 8 of Game of Thrones. So one show takes way too long to get to the point, and it keeps dragging things out. Another one just blows past them. Great action sequences, great cinematography, great music, all those things great. But the storyline, like, they're just, it feels like it's just action and entertainment for the sake of it. Like, you're not actually doing justice to the story that you've spent 8, 9, 10 years telling. People, like, have stuck with this series because they thought there would be this ultimate payoff, that at the end we'd learn some big lesson, that George R.R. Martin's eventual ending for his books would be revealed with this. There were all sorts of things, like the theories about who the Night King was, and there were so many things and theories. I'd say, like, probably 99, if not 100% of, like, was there anyone who predicted before this season that Daenerys would turn evil, burn King's Landing, and Jon would put a knife in her heart after the Night King gets killed by a jump attack from out of nowhere by Arya? Like, did anyone predict that? If you did, comment below, and I will freaking give you a cookie. Okay, like that is. I just told you earlier in this vlog what my theory was. It in no way panned out to into what we got at all. So. So that's it. I'm done talking about Game of Thrones. The series is over, and my channel focuses on The Walking Dead, and Fear the Walking Dead is starting in the beginning of June, and then we're going to get the Season 10 trailer in July. There's probably going to be filming news and stuff. I'll avoid spoilers, because I hate the spoiling dead stuff that leaks out, but it's Walking Dead time. The Game of Thrones is done forever, and now my channel can be completely locked on Walking Dead. But the thing is, I did a few reaction videos for season 6 and 7 of Game of Thrones, and I did some vlogs reviewing it, so I felt that I had to make some vlogs reviewing the end of season 8. Like, I was like, should I just not make any vlogs? But it's such a momentous feat in entertainment history. Like, it would feel like a disservice on a channel where I respect good writing and good storytelling just to ignore this masterpiece that's ending. And then when the show started going in a different direction that I disagreed with, I really had to start getting vocal. So, but nonetheless, I hope you guys enjoyed these vlogs. I hope you did. There's only been a few, and it's really just because that's how many episodes there's been. I think episode 4 might have been the only episode I didn't do a review for. Everything else has a vlog for it. So, All right, guys. I'm glad I was able to make this. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you thought about Game of Thrones. It's so controversial right now. A million signatures on that freaking petition. What is doing that? It's not going to do anything. I would be shocked. I would be shocked if they went the Sonic the Hedgehog route and rewrote it. Like, there's no way. The episodes are out. They've been viewed. We saw coffee cups and water bottles and all sorts of crap. That was like, if that tells you anything, those little editing mistakes about how fast and rushed this feels, maybe if you had 10 episodes, you would spot those things. Why do you think in the first 6 seasons of this show, there weren't editing mistakes like that? All of a sudden, season 8, the season with the shortest episodes in the final season, now that's when the editing mistakes pop up? Seems a little suspicious. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and Walking Dead content will be coming. That's my focus, and I can't wait for new material. It's really ratcheting up into just so many crazy things. The Walking Dead movies, the 3rd series, Fear the Walking Dead with some Rick Grimes movie crossover, season 10. I'm ready. If you guys were disappointed by Game of Thrones and you're looking for another TV series, trust me, I know people have their reservations about The Walking Dead. Please watch my video, How Angela Kang Saved The Walking Dead, and trust me that Season 9 was a much better improvement, all right? They have a new showrunner who's been doing a great job, and I'm very excited to see where the season and seasons and everything else goes in the future. Give it a chance. Game of Thrones fans, give it a chance. I'm telling you, Walking Dead is going great places. Okay? Make The Walking Dead great again, all right? That's what Angela Kang did. She was the Donald Trump of the Walking Dead, okay? All right. Thank you, guys. Peace out. See you later.